Hello, I'm wondering if you're someone who finds it easy to give constructive feedback to a loved one or a superior or a coworker. Well, if so, if you love doing that, this video is not for you. But if you're anyone else, then stay on because we are going to talk about a framework for how we can give constructive feedback in sensitive situations and why each part of this framework works and how it works, okay? So when we're done today, I think you're going to walk away with a nice framework and a way for you to go off and have a difficult conversation, if you need to, with somebody that has done something that you need to address, okay? All right, well, before we get into that, let me quickly introduce myself. My name is Lalith Polite, and you're watching the Awaken Your Instinct channel. And I am a professional belly dancer, a belly dance teacher, and a life coach. And I love to help women find and freely express their truth with dignity and grace. And of course, I help them through belly dancing, coaching, and personal development. I have online belly dance classes, I have online coaching, in-person dance classes and coaching, and I do book private events and different venues for performances. So all of my information is in the description box below. If you'd like to explore working with me in any of those avenues, then please reach out. Okay, well, speaking of coaching, just let's go to that. My coaching training was actually in personal and executive coaching. And in executive coaching training, of course, you need to be able to coach your client on how to give feedback, but also you need to be able to give that person feedback. So imagine that your client is an executive and you need to give them some tough feedback. It could be kind of intimidating, right? So we learned in my training, we learned this model for how to provide feedback. But it just so happens that it helps and works in almost any situation in which you're in a relationship with someone. Any kind of relationship. You could be a family member, a neighbor, you could be a coworker, or it could be your boss, or any number of people. So that is where this came from. So this is not mine originally. I learned it in my coach training. So here are the different steps or components that I recommend to follow when you want to have a difficult feedback conversation. Okay, the first thing is that we need to get the other person's buy-in or permission or agreement that this is a time that they're open to having a conversation, right? Timing is everything, or it can be. So we don't want to go to someone when they're in the middle of concentrating on something else, when they're under a deadline, or when they're just like not prepared. So the first thing that I recommend doing is, first of all, stating your intention. I'd like to share some feedback with you. Number one, okay? State your intention. Write this down, okay? If you think that maybe this could help you, of course you can always watch it again, but write this down, state your intention. I'd like to share some feedback with you, okay? And then you are going to tell them how you're feeling about it. Okay, you're probably not super excited to share the feedback, so I would recommend just being honest about your feelings. And what you could say is, I feel worried, okay? I feel worried because I'm concerned about how my feedback will be received. So stating that. And then you want to ask, is this a good time for me to share that feedback with you? So that is how you get permission. All right. Okay, then I'm gonna go through the whole framework and I'm gonna break down the components afterwards to explain to you what they are for and why they are there. Okay, so then you say, when I, okay, either saw or heard. So whatever it was that happened, if you saw something or if you heard something, okay, you say, when I saw, and then when I saw you, and then describe the behavior. When I heard you say this or that, you describe the behavior or describe what they said. And then you say, I felt blank. Okay. I felt whatever it was you felt. Okay. The framework is when I, and you say saw or heard you blank, I felt blank. Okay. In the future, I need you to blank. And then the blank is where we describe the behavior change. Okay. We need to describe what we would prefer for them to do or say in this scenario. All right. That is the framework. Hopefully you wrote it down, but if you didn't, please go back and listen to the video at the start and write this down, because if you can follow this framework, and I'm about to give you an example, if you can follow this framework, it helps you in many ways. It helps you to remove the emotion out of the conversation, take ownership for your feelings about things, leave room to be wrong about the person's intention of why they said or did those things, and it provides a solution and teaches the other person how they can correct it, should they be willing to correct it. We kind of have to assume that they are willing to correct it. Okay, now here I'm going to give you an example. I'd like to share some feedback, but I feel a little concerned because I'm afraid of how you're going to take the feedback. Would it be okay if I went ahead and shared that with you now? And then the other person says, okay. If it's my husband's case, he'd be like, okay, what I do? And I'll say, well, of course, this is a work scenario as an example. I'll say, okay, when I heard you say I didn't need to be at the meeting, I felt dismissed and undervalued. In the future, I need you to describe the meeting content and allow me to decide if I need to be there. How does that work for you? Okay, so I added the how does that work for you so that you can give the other person a chance to respond. All right. Now, this does not address this does not address somebody's intentions. Okay, this assumes that the other person had good intentions, and I'm going to get into why. All right, let's start from the top. I'd like to share some feedback. Okay, you're stating your intention. Here's the why that matters. Okay, because it's our responsibility to share with the other person and be clear that we have something we need to say and work with them to get corrected. Okay, first things first, state your intention. I feel worried because I'm concerned how it will be received. Okay, so first you are disclosing and being honest and vulnerable. Okay, so when you start out honest and vulnerable, that lowers the other person's guard. And we want guards to be lowered because we're trying to resolve a conflict, right? Okay, so you can be the one that starts. Okay? Is it okay? Is it a good time for us to have this conversation now? And then the other person says yes, or they say, oh, can we do this in an hour or 30 minutes? Okay, so the reason to get permission is because the other person needs to have agreed to hear what you have to say in order to be in a place of receiving your message, understanding your message, and having a calm, problem-solving conversation about it, okay? That is why we ask permission, and that's how that works. Okay, now getting into the example. When I heard you say I didn't need to be at the meeting, okay, why do I say when I heard you say instead of when you said? This is an incredibly important aspect of this conversation, and that is because it gives the opportunity for me to have misheard that person, okay? It gives me the ownership of saying, that is what I heard. And then the other person can be like, I don't remember saying that, but you're telling them what you heard them say, okay? Which, whatever it is they said, you're saying, I heard you say. And that way, that puts it out there that maybe there was a miscommunication. Maybe that person didn't say that. Maybe that person thought they said something else. So it kind of gives this kind of like forgiving grace that says, that's what I heard, okay? Not that you said that, but that's what I heard. And this is how it affected me. It made me feel, I felt dismissed and undervalued, okay? This is another important part of the construct here, because you say, I felt, not you made me feel, not it made me feel, but I felt. So I'm taking ownership for the fact that, and accountability for how I chose to feel about that. That's again, owning your own feelings, owning your own responses. That is, again, not accusatory towards the other person. It gives forgiveness. It gives grace. It gives the opportunity to say, hey, not that that's what you meant, but that's how I felt. Again, we're talking about assuming good intentions and how do we just address what our perception of what happened is. Okay? Now then, moving on. In the future, I need you to describe the meeting content to allow me to determine if I need to be there, okay? So what did I do? I just gave specific instructions that were pretty clear and easy to follow of the behavior change I'd like to see. This is all about behavior, not intentions, all about behavior, okay? It's also about helping people understand the impact of what they say, okay? Not that it's their fault that I felt dismissed and undervalued. That's a personal issue. Self-esteem issue, right? I would need to be working through. That's not their fault. That's how I felt. But now they know when you say those things, that's just how I felt. And then you give them a solution. And then at the end, how does that work for you? Okay, so that's that final check-in. Remember when we asked permission? That final check-in, how does that work for you? Rather than say, does that make sense or anything along those lines? Leave an open-ended question. How does that work for you? And who knows what they're going to say, but the reason you put that, how does that work for you out there, is because you want to gain alignment, buy-in to the behavior change that you said. You want to give the other person a chance to input, a chance to respond. And so that gives an open-ended chance for them to respond to the behavior change. And, who knows, they may come in and say, I apologize, I didn't know that you could have felt that way, or this, that, and the third. Who knows what they'll say necessarily. But at the end of the day, this framework has created a container for you to have a calm, accountable, clear conversation to address something that you really feel strongly about needs to be changed, and it allows you to give feedback that needs to be given for you to have an improved relationship with that person. It's non-accusatory, it is self-accountable, and it's all focused on problem solving and changing behavior. It's not personal. So I think I've said a lot. It's 15 minutes in. I hope you wrote down this framework. I hope this helped you. If you are able to use it some way, let me know how it goes for you. If you have a difficult conversation you need to have, let me know. I do free 30-minute complimentary clarity calls for people to see if I'm, a good fit for a coach for you. And so even if you're not necessarily looking to have a long coaching relationship, I would be happy to walk you through prepping for a challenging conversation in a 30-minute complimentary call. So you can reach out to me in the description box below. You can see how to reach me, or you can write a comment and we can reach out over email. So I actually just share this stuff to help you guys too. So using that free time, I would be happy to help you because I think that so many things can be solved through communication and just, putting our weapons down and resolving things calmly. And finally, if you liked this video, would you please give it a like? If you haven't subscribed yet, please do subscribe, share, comment, all of that stuff. That's free. That doesn't cost anything. So if you would like to support me somehow in continuing with this and on my business endeavors, I'd appreciate just a little like or something along those lines. I appreciate that so much. All right. Take care, everyone, and I'll see you next week.